You were lucky you got to pay half. I don't see that you have a case, Ms. Brooks. You used the dresses. We're done. Thank you.
From disputes over venue contracts to issues with vendors, these problems can cause a lot of stress for the happy couple, but Judge Judy is here to give her expert advice on how to handle these situations. This case is about a dispute between the plaintiff, which was the bride's mother, and the defendants, that were the horse caregivers. The bride's mother had hired the defendants for her daughter's wedding, and the arrangement was that they would pay them $650 for 1 hour to ride her daughter and her fiancé around and take photographs before they reached the place where the wedding or reception was supposed to take place. The wedding was on August 13, 2016, and the defendants were supposed to arrive at 4:30 p.m.
Arrangement was you were going to pay them a certain amount of money to ride your daughter and her fiancé around and take photographs before they reached the place where either the wedding or the reception was supposed to take place.
Yes, Your Honor.
As Ms. Johnson took the stand, she explained to Judge Judy that the defendants had not performed the service satisfactorily, and she did not give her money's worth. She wanted her money back, plus damages.
Claimed that they didn't perform that service satisfactorily and you didn't get your money's worth. You want your money back, plus, whatever. Anyway, how much did you pay them?
$650 for 1 hour.
The bride was also present at the court, so Judge Judy asked her to come out as well so she can explain better what happened. She asked for a few questions as she wanted to solve the matter as fairly as possible. As the bride said, she didn't really have much of a conversation with the carriers because that was a surprise from her mother, so she didn't know exactly what was happening and what they were supposed to do, which made the whole situation a little bit difficult to organize.
Have a conversation with the defendants about where the ride should be taking you?
No, my mom and dad surprised me with it.
So you were surprised when you came out of the ceremony?
While Judge Judy is trying to listen to both sides and solve this conflict, she asks for some kind of proof that will help her make a decision. The plaintiff presents a contract, and Judge Judy goes over it carefully. Moreover, she points out to the defendants that they, in fact, picked up the bride and her fiancé at 4:30 despite the fact that the contract said the pickup time was 5. The defendants tried to explain themselves, but Judge Judy was strict about what the contract said.
I assume that was before this was signed because you did in fact pick them up at 4:30, despite the fact that your contract says from 5 to 6.
We try to be accommodating.
No, that's not what I said.
I'm sorry.
It seems like the bride and her mother got only half of the service they paid for because the bride was picked up half an hour earlier and got dropped off at 5, which was supposed to be the pickup time. However, she didn't exactly know that at the time, as it was all a planned surprise by her mother.
Correct, because you wrote from 5 to 6, and actually you picked them up at 4:30.
Right.
Okay. So
while Judge Judy listens to the defendant's side of the story, while they were trying to explain what happened, it became clear that they did not provide the full service as per the contract. As Judge Judy pointed out, the defendant paid for an hour, but they didn't get an hour worth of a ride.
But what I'm saying is, they paid for an hour. They didn't get an hour's worth of ride.
The second case is a heated dispute over a wedding chapel deposit between Janie and Gary Reichuber, the parents of the bride, and Ken Elliott, the man who rented them out the wedding chapel. The Reichuber's daughter Diana and her fiancé had found the venue while driving by and were immediately enamored with its beautiful architecture. They saw a sign out front advertising the venue as a perfect location for events and decided to inquire about renting it for their upcoming nuptials.
Diana, when did you see the venue?
We saw it in July, shortly after my fiance and I had just been engaged, and we thought the building was beautiful, and they had a sign out.
Do you have pictures of it?
We do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
But as it turns out, Ken Elliott, the man they had been communicating with about the venue, was not the owner of the property at all. In fact, he was in negotiations to purchase the building from a man named Ron Smith, but no formal contract had ever been made.
You own this venue, Mr. Elliott?
I did not.
Who owned the venue?
Ron Smith.
He told us he owned it.
Shh. Don't speak. How do you know Ron Smith?
The sign out front had his name or number on it, and I called him. I was interested in purchasing the building.
While Judge Judy reveals that there was no contract whatsoever between Ken Elliott and the owner of the building, Ron Smith, it becomes clear that the defendant had no connection at all with the building, therefore had no right to rent it, and even more, ask money for it.
For all intents and purposes, you have no connection with this building. You are not a rentor, you are not an owner, and he wasn't paying you to manage it.
As the evidence is presented, it becomes clear that Ken, besides presenting himself as the owner of the venue and trying to rent and make money off it, he had crossed out a phone number on a document related to the venue and replaced it with his own.
That number, would it buzz in your pocket?
It does go to my cell phone.
Okay, so they're not good guessers. You crossed out the number and put in your own number.
I don't know that I crossed it out.
Yes, you did.
Unless I
Yes, you did. Crossed it out.
Judge Judy doesn't hold back in her scolding of Ken. It was clear that he had no right to take the deposit from the bride and her parents for the venue he wasn't associated with in any way. According to Judge Judy, his actions were deceitful.
Mr. Elliott, in these meetings, ever hold himself out to be the owner of this?
Yes, he did.
Of course, otherwise you would say, why would I give him money?
Correct.
Okay.
This third case is about Keithisha Brooks and Jeanne James going head-to-head in front of the infamous Judge Judy. Miss Brooks, the bride, was suing Miss James, a talented seamstress, for ruining her wedding and demanding the return of money paid for the bridesmaid dresses. As the hearing began, Judge Judy immediately got down to business, grilling Miss Brooks on the details of her case. She questioned how many dresses were made, how much they cost, and how much Miss Brooks had paid Miss James. As the questioning continued, it became clear that Miss Brooks had paid a deposit of $500 but still owed an additional $500 for the dresses.
So you were getting married and hired the defendant to do some bridesmaids' dresses for you.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many bridesmaids' dresses was she making?
10.
And what was the total cost that she quoted you to make the 10 dresses?
$1,000.
So,
But the case took a dramatic turn when the judge asked if the wedding had taken place as scheduled and if the bridesmaid had worn the dresses. To everyone's surprise, Miss Brooks admitted that the wedding had taken place and the dresses were worn, but that they had issues and requirement adjusting. And moreover, the bride was now asking for $3,200 back due to some of the issues with the dresses, even though they were worn at the wedding by the bridesmaids. And according to the pictures, nothing seemed wrong with them.
is it scheduled?
Yes, ma'am.
And did 10 bridesmaids show up?
Yes, ma'am.
Did 10 bridesmaids wear those dresses?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have pictures of them?
Yes, ma'am.
As the evidence and testimony was presented, Judge Judy listened attentively and carefully weighed the facts of the case. In the end, she ruled that Miss Brooks was not entitled to any money, stating that the dresses looked fine in the pictures and that most people throw away bridesmaid dresses after the wedding. She also noted that Miss Brooks had been lucky to have paid only $50 per dress instead of $100, and that Miss James' counterclaim was valid.
You're not getting any money. You use the dresses and then throw them away. That's what most people do with bridesmaids' dresses. You got lucky. You got to pay only $50 a piece instead of $100. And they still look pretty reasonable in the pictures, which is actually all you need for your wedding is the pictures. I don't know what your complaint.
As the case was coming to an end, Judge Judy doesn't shy away from delivering tough decisions and pointed out to the plaintiff that she doesn't have a case at all. The bride paid half the price for the bridesmaid dresses that were used at the wedding with no issues in sight. So the final verdict from Judge Judy is that the bride should be lucky she got all that.
Right. Most people take their bridesmaids' dresses, they donate them to Goodwill. You were lucky, you got to pay half. I don't see that you have a case, Miss Brooks. You used the dresses. We're done. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned to see more of Judge Judy.